Hello, welcome to Ring Takes here, episode 61, coming off a big weekend. Joined by Brian and Lewis as always. I'm Daniel. Thank you guys for joining me, watching, tuning in. Let's get into it. A big PLE, WWE Backlash in France that took place on Saturday. And I just want to say, without a doubt, the crowd was the MVP of WWE Backlash France. Like, I have never seen an environment like that. We've seen crowds hijack a show for better or for worse at times. And this was just a feel-good moment for WWE and the wrestlers, everybody involved. Like, I was excited just by the crowd. I don't know how you guys felt about the crowd. Let's get your thoughts on it. How you guys feel about the crowd and seeing that type of atmosphere for WWE Backlash France?
Well, like I stated in the chat, Nick Khan, that man is a real one because he was the one that came up with the idea of taking these smaller PLEs and bringing them overseas to these European crowds and such. And let's just be honest right now and put it out there. I mean, when it comes to professional wrestling, European crowds are better than American crowds, and we've seen that. No, you'll agree. They have more. They have more passion. They make the
I didn't know this was going to turn into an anti-American.
It's not supposed to be.
I didn't know we were going rogue.
It's not meant
going off
to
the
be
rails,
anti-American.
insulting the crowds of the USA. I didn't know that.
It's not meant to be anti. Yeah, I know you just play, but
it's a small-minded talk that doesn't let them expand to the global market.
You know, obviously, I mean, as much shit as I talk about our country, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. But if we look at the crowds as far as professional wrestling goes, I mean, these overseas crowds have been showing up to these shows. I mean. This was essentially like pretty much like a soccer game. It was a soccer crowd. I mean, and I've seen videos of these of soccer events, whether it's during the Olympics and such, and how crazy the crowd got. I mean, that's essentially what this was. And I don't know if you guys watched SmackDown, but I watched SmackDown and I watched how the crowd was even then. I saw them, singing Randy Orton's theme song, which is something in all the years I've watched Randy Orton, I've never seen him get serenaded like that. But yeah, as far as the show goes, I mean, from the very beginning with Kevin Owens' entrance, I mean, you could tell the crowd was into it and the crowd was ready to go, and a great crowd can enhance a match in such a positive manner.
Mm-hmm.
We always talk about the back. Sorry to dampen the mood a little bit, but we always talk about back in 2020 with the pandemic and how there was no crowd and how a lot of the matches and the quality of the product suffered because of it. And then we fast forward now to about 4 years later, and you see what a great crowd can do to enhance your show. And from all of the entrances to the participation in the matches, I mean, I will admit that at some point it did get a little bit extra, like them chanting after every 2 count, which I actually looked up, and apparently that's tradition in France. Apparently there was like a famous French wrestling commentator that chanted that after every 2 count. So apparently that's tradition for them. So, but I thought it was just a little bit extra, but other than that, like the ticker says, the crowd were the true MVPs of the show. They made the show so much better. And I'll even make this point with Jay. If you've never watched wrestling and you saw Jay Uso's entrance for the first time on that show, you would think he's your top guy, because that's how great that entrance was. And we'll get to it when we get into that match specifically, but. Yeah, but the crowd, man. There's not much more positive you can say about it.
Yeah, man.
I forget which PLE it was. I want to say it was Elimination Chamber, but it also might have been when they first did the Puerto Rico last year. But it's like, I don't specifically remember when Triple H said it, but he was like, if we come to your country and you guys make noise, we'll come back. And for this being the first time them going to, well, I don't know if their first time ever performing in France, but at least
they've done like European tours and stuff
yeah,
like that.
I feel like they've done house shows, but never like a full,
not like a major show, but like house shows and
exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
And they did exactly that. And like Brian said, it was like from the first match to the counts to songs to everything. You literally saw cameras rumbling because trying to perform like AJ Styles, and it's just like from the crowd just going nuts in there. And mind you, this isn't even in their like major city. Well, I guess it was their third largest city in the country, but so it's like,
I think
imagine if they took over like a soccer stadium or something like that, how crazy the crowd would be. And without even knowing what they were chanting, they were just so interactive, saying all the songs and everything. And it was like crazy. I think I do agree though. Like, I think at some points with the constant chanting, you're like, I think at some points you were kind of focusing more on the crowd a little. For some matches, not all of them. But it was still just a great element. Like, you felt the energy through the screen. Like, I don't think I've ever, besides maybe like the PR one.
Yeah, the Puerto Rico one.
Yeah, with the Bad Bunny one, I don't think I felt like a crowd literally popping out through the screen. Like you were there.
We get a little bit of that in America, like with Chicago or New York and Brooklyn, like certain events like that. But
yeah, definitely Chicago. But I feel like to that magnitude, I feel like we haven't felt. Besides like a WrestleMania, maybe
it's a different scale of what they did in France. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, for that being their first time, they showed out, and it was a great thing to be recording. Like Brian said, that Jay entrance, that whole segment alone was like, you would have thought that was like Roman Reigns like 2.0 or something. Like it was massive.
Like the crowd, kudos to the crowd in France. I can't say enough. As Brian said, it was like a soccer. If you ever watch Premier League or any foreign soccer games and they're on TV, like I go to the spot that's close to me and they have a Spanish soccer on in the background all the time, and the crowds are nuts. So now to see that in a wrestling atmosphere element where it's closed, everyone's focused on wrestling, to see that type of energy provided and given to wrestling was awesome to see. The crowd chants, everything, how involved they were. And I think that was something that they've really tapped into with this kind of overseas PLE tour, where these crowds don't have these type of events there. Even when they have their own promotions in their towns, they're not this big. And WWE is really trying to go worldwide. I'm wondering, this is just the start of it. Like, you're tapping into that European market. They're going to go to London. They're going to be in Toronto. They're going to be in Germany, I believe, in July or August for the bat. Just a continuation of growing the product. And it's like, especially the ties with UFC, because UFC does a lot of that. UFC goes overseas a lot, to Brazil, to Tokyo, to Japan, and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if WWE is ever going to try to do that and just expand. Maybe South America is going to get a couple PLEs a year. Maybe Asia gets a couple PLEs a year. If this Africa, if this is going to be the grand scan of how this crowds are going to be reacting and giving this energy to the product, I don't see nothing negative about doing this. Like, this is just only going to be positive for the wrestlers. And even with this small card, how many matches were there? 5? You don't need to carry your whole roster over there to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's another beneficial thing that they can do. And I think that even with this upcoming brand split, what we'll get into later, you can take SmackDown overseas, you can take Raw overseas, maybe even NXT to a lesser degree go overseas, especially with NXT UK. They can tap into those markets, those European markets, those Asian markets, and really grow this product to a different level that we haven't seen. But that crowd in France, to the start to the end of it, was intense, into everything, and genuine wrestling fans. And sometimes when you have these US events, it goes quiet. You don't know if they're really into the match or whatever the case may be. In France, there was no question of that. Like, they were into every moment, making noise, cheering, and it was awesome to see. So kudos to the France crowd. Major props. In WWE, go there again. Go to Puerto Rico. Go to Australia. Keep going to these places because they're getting that type of energy, and it's dope to see even on TV.
Yeah.
So let's get into not our first match of the night, but